Nirupama Rao, former Foreign Secretary. You've served as an ambassador to the United States as well. Your sense, is this a defining moment as is being suggested?
Thank you, Rajdeep. I definitely think it is a defining moment, and I was particularly struck by President Biden's statement just a few minutes ago about bending the arc of history to the global good, which is what India and the United States are engaged in. I also think that technology is, in a growing way, becoming the core of the strategic partnership between India and the United States. And it also, with that, I feel, will come the augmentation of India's comprehensive national strength. It strengthens India's capacity as a balancing force in the Indo-Pacific. And most importantly, I believe it spells a deepening in a very profound manner of the India-US partnership, this partnership between two of the world's greatest and largest democracies.
May I ask you though, ma'am, since you served also in the Manmohan Singh government as Foreign Secretary, are you seeing, Nirupama Rao, a continuum? You know, the focus today is on Mr. Modi and Mr. Biden. Should we turn the clock back in some way to Manmohan Singh and George Bush opening up with the Civil Nuclear Cooperation Agreement that opened the way, in a way, for defense cooperation and technology transfers, which today are getting actualized? Should we see it as a continuum, or should we give the credit largely to the two principals who are meeting today in the Oval Office?
Well, I think diplomacy is like a river that flows, and there are many bends, obviously, in the river. But I believe that what you see today is, in a way, a growing sense of purpose and a much sharper sense of direction in the India-US partnership. And I think you have to give credit to the Modi government for that.
Nirupama Rao joining me there. I appreciate your joining us. We are going now straight to the White House, where Rahul Kanwal joins us at the moment. Rahul, at the White House, what is the sense you get? We have a joint statement likely in a short while from now, the two principals likely to take a couple of questions. What is being seen as the big highlight so far for you of the visit?
We're in the house of Joe Biden, and thousands of people were chanting Modi, Modi. The scenes, Rajdeep, were electrifying. We were here together, I remember, in 2014. And one would have thought that you've seen it all. You've kind of, there's a sense of deja vu. There's no howdy Houston this time. There's no need for a Madison Square Garden. They virtually turned the south lawns of the White House into an area where there's a political rally taking place. Massive support for the Prime Minister. It was raining, Rajdeep, from early in the morning, except for those 15 minutes when Prime Minister Modi and President Biden were there, when magically, almost by fortitude, the clouds had made way and it wasn't raining. Apart from that, it's been raining pretty non-stop. The security officials we were speaking to, the other American journalists who are part of the White House pool we were speaking to, say the only time they've seen anything similar, not quite what we saw, but something along these lines, was when the Pope had visited the White House. Apart from that, no matter who the world leader may be, no one has seen scenes like this. There was part amazement, part bewilderment on the faces of those who are regulars over here when they saw that there were Bollywood numbers that were playing in the White House, there were English songs that were playing. All of it created an atmosphere of celebration and festivity, which is what the India-America relationship really was about as far as the ties between the people of these two countries are concerned. On the substantive side, Rajdeep, the fact that America is now willing to give GE F414 jet engine technology, which is not shared even with alliance partners, and despite the fact that India isn't part of any formal alliance with the United States, nor is it ever likely to be, for America to be willing to make such critical technology available to India shows how these two countries realize that their enemy is across the Himalayas. The enemy country is China, and that's the common geopolitical threat both Delhi and Washington DC are facing at this moment, which is what is bringing these two countries, these two democracies together in a way that hasn't been possible. I was speaking to some officials here in White House and some think tankers, they say a few months ago, a couple of years ago, it would have been pretty inconceivable for the Biden administration or any government at that point in time to make such critical technology available to a country like India, which isn't even part of any formal alliance. Rajdeep.
Let's take that to our guest, what you just said about China. And let me start with you, Daniel Block, editor, Foreign Affairs Magazine, New York. Do you agree with that, that India and the US coming so close to each other, partly at least, is because of a strategy, a common shared goal in containing the rise of China?
I think that that's actually the overriding imperative here. And I'm interested to see to what extent, if at all, that's made explicit in some of the forthcoming statements. Typically, the two countries don't actually mention China when they're speaking to one another, at least publicly. I think the other element, of course, and the two are related, are economics. India is the world's largest country. It's a huge market for the United States and for its businesses. And that includes in defensive ties. One of the things the United States is trying to do is to, I heard the term friendshore, I think, earlier. It's trying to get American companies to move their supply chains out of China, or to consider having them not go to China and go somewhere else. And India is a huge part of that strategy. So I do think that this is largely driven by China, whether that's explicitly stated or not. And I would add, I think this is a very strategic relationship and partnership. For all that's said and done. But strategic relationships can be very, very powerful. And this is poised to be the one that could be very powerful, very strong, and very deep as a result.